To Ted Potter Jr. Magnificent performance.
Ted
Potter. Bless my soul. It's
Ted.
Harry Potter.
Ted
Potter.
Mr.
Ted
Potter wishes to make a withdrawal.
Ted
Potter.
Yeah, that Ted Potter. May have been a bit of a, maybe an anticlimactic Sunday afternoon, but there was a lot of interesting storylines going into it. First off, Ted Potter, this unknown guy, really, to most golf fans, including myself, he entered the final round tied with Dustin Johnson. So every single person watching was thinking, even Ted Potter, well, DJ's going to win. So Ted Potter said himself, everyone's thinking it, he's thinking it, no pressure. Let's just go out and play. Well, the one thing no one considered is that Ted has over 60 worldwide wins under his belt. This is only his second one on the PGA Tour, but worldwide, he knows how to get it done down the stretch, down the pressure in the big moments. So he comes away victorious on Sunday with a 3-stroke lead. There's a couple of really good players ended up finishing second place right behind him, but it is Ted Potter taking home the AT&T Pebble Beach National Pro-Am, again for his second PGA Tour victory. He entered the week 246th in the world golf ranking and now sits at 75th. So a little bit of background on Ted. He turned pro right out of high school in 2002. He made the Web.com tour in 2004 and then proceeded to miss the cut in all 24 of his starts that season. On the Web.com tour in 2007, he again missed the cut 17 times out of 20 starts. And in another year on the Web.com tour in 2010, he missed the cut in 8 of 11 starts. So very inconsistent. Obviously had a lot of wins in there throughout various things, but that one stands out. So after those missed cuts and whatnot on the Web.com tour, he did make to the PGA Tour, but in the summer of 2014 at the RBC Canadian Open, actually, he stepped off a curb while wearing flip-flops and rolled his ankle, basically shattering it to the point where it required surgery. That cost him nearly 2 years of his career, and he says it still affects him at times, but not really on the golf course, luckily. Going into the weekend, no one had even noticed Ted Potter's name on the leaderboard. But he really stood out Saturday afternoon with a couple holes going. He was playing the Monterey Peninsula course, I believe, on Saturday. He was flirting with 59. There was a definite 59 watch going around Twitter. He kind of slipped a little bit just down the very end and ended with a 62. But that was enough to get him to the final round on Sunday. So, yeah, here we are. Ted Potter gets the win. Some other tidbits from the tournament. Of course, there's all the good Pro-Am action. That went to Kevin Struhlman and Larry Fitzgerald. Larry, obviously a future Hall of Famer in the NFL as a wide receiver for the Arizona Cardinals. They steamrolled the entire field. They came second last year. They won this year. So they seem to be a good team to look out for in the future. But in terms of the actual event, again, Ted Potter Jr. wins by 3. There were a couple really good moments from the Pro-Am, as there are every year. There's a couple really funny things, such as Ray Romano almost decapitating Jordan Spieth.
A disruption behind him.
Got all of it.
I told you, he was aiming right at us.
What happened there, Phil?
Yeah, there was a shot coming out of on the fairway bunkers from the amateurs in the group behind.
Pretty good reflexes there. Got to be on your toes at all time. We may have identified the culprit who nearly beheaded Spieth with that errant shot that Phil had described earlier. Mr. Romano.
We had Tony Romo. He was playing in the Pro-Am as well, and he was on the course mic'd up while talking to the announcers. So Nick Faldo and Jim Nantz were talking to him while he was playing. Take a listen.
Hey, guys, I'm trying to hit a shot here. Can you quiet down for a second?
Please. Quiet, please. On the hey, partner, you need to hold this.
Yeah, come on, Tony. We need you here tomorrow.
Hey, isn't that demon an artificial aid? Give him advice. We could give him a bunker lesson. No, not so much set. No. Too much set. It's all right. Pretty good.
Good shot.
Well played.
Even with someone criticizing your stance as you're over the ball live.
No, he
A
was.
little rough there, my friend.
I wasn't criticizing. I was just sending him helpful tips.
I got my two partners here at the same time. One saying, no.
It's a different sand, Nick. You got to have a little bit flatter, a little more set early in this kind.
Oh, excuse me.
Definitely always a good time at the Pebble Beach National Pro-Am for these type of things. Okay, so before I get into Tiger returning this week and Riviera, a bit of a preview, Genesis Open, a few little tidbits from the week in golf that I would like to go over. First, Jason Day had a few interesting comments towards Rory McIlroy this week. The topic came up in an interview during a press conference just about what Jason Day thinks of the talent level of Rory McIlroy. And as a quick aside, Rory played his first PGA Tour event of the season this week, and he missed a cut at Pebble, but he had never played Pebble in a PGA Tour event before other than a major, so not too big of a deal. But anyways, as I was saying, Jason Day was asked about Rory, and he used to be so dominant, and he's maybe gone through a little bit less of a dominant stretch, but just sort of what he thinks of the state of Rory McIlroy's game. And he basically, I'm paraphrasing here, but he really boiled it down to saying it really comes down to how much Rory wants it. Like how much is he really willing to work at it? Because he has the tools to be kind of Tiger-esque. I believe that was the exact quote. He has the tools to be kind of Tiger-esque. It really just comes down to how much he wants it. Interesting comments from one fellow PGA Tour pro to another, especially two superstars, and especially a guy like Jason Day, which he's had his own fair share of like withdrawals, injury things that people can look at him and say, well, maybe if he just cared a little more, which those that actually know, I mean, I'm not going to say I know him, but those that follow know Jason Day cares a hell of a lot. But you could look at it from the outside and say, well, if you only cared a little more. So for him to say this about Rory McIlroy, a little bit hypocritical, but on the other hand, he's not wrong. I mean, we have seen Rory, when Rory's on, then nobody can beat Rory. We've never seen Tiger and Rory go head-to-head when they're both on, but when Rory is on, he absolutely laps the field. So maybe there's a little bit of validity to this. Rory did not respond to the comments, so you can look at that however you want, but definitely interesting that Jason Day would sort of call Rory out on this. We'll kind of follow that, see if anything else comes from it. I don't really expect anything to, but definitely interesting. This week on the Web.com tour, a 52-year-old amateur named Julio Bell. He bought his way into the field, allegedly, but remember a few months ago when everyone was pissed off at Steph Curry? I'm going to admit, when this story first came out, actually, I was mad at Steph Curry too. But remember when everyone was mad at Steph Curry for playing in that Web.com tour event? He actually fared really well and was the biggest draw on the Web.com tour the entire year. So that actually ended up going really well. Tony Romo just got an exemption into a PGA Tour event. Not exactly a PGA Tour event. They have another event going that week for the guys who didn't qualify for the World Golf Championships event. So sort of like a B-level PGA Tour event, but still a PGA Tour event that Tony Romo will be getting an exemption into. But as I said, this man, Julio Bell, 52-year-old, bought his way into the Web.com's Columbia Championship. He shot 56 over through the first 2 days. He shot a 93 and then a 105. And he was disqualified because he didn't hand in his scorecard, deciding just to walk off instead due to embarrassment. I can only imagine. But this obviously caused a lot of anger from tour pros, from fans. Imagine playing with this guy. Imagine being a pro, trying to earn a paycheck, and you're paired with this guy. Strangely enough, the other two guys that were paired with him both did make the cut, so props to them. Just, what are you thinking? What are you thinking to go into a professional event? If you can't break 70 every single time, you shouldn't be going in. You shouldn't even be thinking of teeing it up and thinking you can compete with the pros. But if you can't break 80 every single time you play golf, do you even consider? And I know he paid his way into the event, or allegedly paid his way into the event. You gotta have something's going on up there for you to do that. Okay, so this week on the tour is the Genesis Open at Riviera. I'm not going to spend too much time on the ins and outs of the event itself, because I'll have another blog on Wednesday that's really the tournament preview. So much can change in the next few days. However, I really want to dive into Tiger teeing it up this week, and I will touch on the event. But first, Tiger being back at the site of his first ever professional event, Riviera Country Club.
On the tee from USA, Tiger Woods.
So, Tiger teed it up here first in 1992. He was paired with Davis Love. He made comments about how he was wowed by Davis's ability to score the ball, and he needed to get better, which obviously he has done. In 9 starts at Riviera, Tiger owns a 69.39 scoring average, and he came closest to win in 1999, trailing by 2 strokes heading into the final round and needing a birdie at the 18th to tie Niels, but he lost his approach to the right and finished with a bogey. That tied second came a week after he closed 62-65 to win, and a year after he lost in a playoff to Billy Mayfair when the tournament temporarily moved to Valencia Country Club. Since then, though, he has really struggled to make any sort of run at Riviera. He hasn't played the event in over 10 years. In 2006, he putted very poorly on the bumpy Poa annua greens. His caddy, Steve Williams, at the time, he didn't have an umbrella in the bag. It started to rain really bad on Friday afternoon. Tiger was already sick. He got more sick, and he withdrew the next day. So that's the last time Tiger's played in this event. But even that story, there's some stuff that was come out about that. Apparently, as legend has it, that entire thing was exacerbated by getting stuck in a brutal Friday night traffic jam heading to his lodging east of the course. So not only missing the cut, but getting in a brutal traffic jam, probably pissed off at himself and his caddy for getting his umbrella. He's all wet. He's sick. Gets more sick. Never returns to the event again. Can't really blame him for that one, but now things have changed a little bit. For starters, everyone knows that booking lodging, you do that on the south or west end of the course, so he will not have that problem again. No more 90-minute drive stuck in traffic back to lodging. The bumpy Poa annua greens, they're a lot smoother thanks to Riviera hiring Matt Morton, one of the best superintendents in the country. Woods will also find many of the holes lengthened and some others playing shorter. So, for example, the par 4 10th plays like a par 3 for pros these days. Drivable par 4, probably top 10 favorite holes on the entire PGA Tour for me. So there's some short drivable par 4s. There's some long holes, but Tiger is, as we know from last couple weeks ago, he's still hitting the ball pretty far. There's a couple back-to-back par 5s. Both are reachable this week. They used to be long and not reachable. And best of all, Riviera doesn't have the really, really long, high rough they used to have in the late 90s and early 2000s. And the greens will be running really, really quick. So it's going to be a tough test, a really tough test. But there are some things boding well in Tiger's favor compared to the way the course used to set up. Again, that being said, if he drives the ball anywhere near the way he did a couple weeks ago, he's not going to make the cut because, yes, the fairways are running out a little more. Yes, the rough is not quite as long, but still narrow fairways, still long rough, and he's not going to be able to Houdini his way out of it if he's missing fairways by 20, 30 yards every single time. If his short game is anywhere near as good as it was a couple weeks ago, well, that might just balance things out. So I'm not exactly sure what to expect from Tiger this week. If he's not driving the ball well, he's not going to make the cut. It's as simple as that. If he is driving the ball okay and his short game is up to snuff, he could contend. But again, anything in the top 25, especially, this is definitely the toughest track he's played since he's been back. This is the best field since he's been back. So anything in the top 20, top 25, pretty much making the cut would be a benefit for Mr. Tiger Woods. As far as his schedule going forward, next week he's a maybe at the Valspar, which it'd be nice to see him in a field that's not stacked on a course that's not ridiculously hard. But it's a maybe, and then we assume he'll play Honda. He pretty much always plays Honda. He always plays Bay Hill, and then that's in the run up to Augusta, which obviously if he's doing all this, he's going to be playing at the Masters. So I assume we probably won't see him next week, but it all depends on how he plays this week. But in terms of Riviera and the Genesis Open, he's got himself a tough test ahead. So digging into that a little bit, again, I'm not going to go too much into it. Riviera is a 7,322-yard par 71. It's a star-studded field. It's a star-studded place. It opened in 1927, so it's been around a long time. It's been in some movies. It's tons of celebrities have memberships there, blah, 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 blah. It's got a couple really famous holes. I mentioned the 10th. It's also got the par 3 6th is famed for its bunker right in the middle of the green. And the course Riviera itself is frequently referred to as Hogan's Alley. It used to be Ben Hogan's favorite course. He notched 3 wins there in an 18th-month span, the 1948 U.S. Open and 2 L.A. Opens. So Hogan's Alley, great tradition, great history, great course, tough, traditional tree-lined, long rough, nice course to watch. Last year, Dustin Johnson turned a marathon Sunday into a huge win. He won by 5 strokes, and that is what propelled him to the number 1 spot in the world, surpassing Jason Day at the time. It was really rainy, really wet, so they had to play 36 holes on the final day through rain and fog, blah, blah, blah. But Dustin Johnson just wiped away the field. He won by 5. He fired a third round, his opening round on Sunday morning, I guess. He fired a third round 64, and he had a 5-shot margin that he just kept that going. The lead actually grew to 9 at one point in the final round before he just sort of took his foot off the gas pedal. It was his 4th win in a 9-month span, beginning with the U.S. Open. And as I said, that vaulted him past Jason Day atop the world rankings. And Dustin joined Arnold Palmer, Jack Nicklaus, and Tiger Woods as the only men to notch a win in each of their first 10 PGA Tour seasons. Not only is it a good field, it's a very international field, very well represented. Joining DJ, I mentioned Jordan Spieth, Justin Thomas, Rory McIlroy in the field as well, trying to make up for a miscut last week. All in all, 4 of the top 8 men in the official World Golf Ranking and 14 of the top 25 in the official World Golf Ranking will be taking it up this week. So definitely a star-studded field and no lack of guys to watch. DJ, in his last 4 starts, he has never finished lower than 4th. Prior to last year's win, he lost a 2015 playoff and was runner-up again in 2014. Another guy to kind of look out for due to course history, Bubba Watson. He won in 2014 and 2016, so trying to make it that even-numbered thing, 14, 16, 18. See if he can complete the three-peat of that. Aside from that, I will go into more in-depth detail about Genesis Open Riviera. That'll come on tomorrow. I'll have a video podcast with clips and some funny stuff. So check that one out on YouTube. This will be on podcast, iTunes, and SoundCloud. I'm Jday McCullough. Thank you very much for listening to Teeing Off, and I will talk to you again next week.